And if the rule is once an individual is indicted, then that stops the ethics process. I don't believe that is the right message that we want to send to members of Congress. If you've been charged with very serious crimes, and as long as you can delay your trial, that is going to delay the ethics process. I believe we kind of started beginning to set that bar with the Santos matter, where we moved ahead with the Santos investigation during the time in which he was under federal indictment, and that matter actually came to the floor. I believe it would be disingenuous for Ms. McCormick to say that this is a change of precedent, because it's not. That change happened last Congress in 2023 with the George Santos matter.
The chairman of the House Ethics Committee just explained on camera exactly how a member of Congress can run out the clock on accountability, get indicted, delay your trial. And according to what he said right there, the ethics process waits with you. Representative Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick resigned this morning, minutes before this committee was set to vote on whether to recommend her expulsion. 25 ethics violations, substantiated. And she walked out the door before the consequence arrived.
And I think through the course of this, we tried to make sure that we as a committee understood all the facts, both those facts that would tend to implicate Ms. McCormick in this and anything that would tend to exculpate her. This committee found by clear and convincing evidence that 25 of the violations were proved, and we were prepared today to make a very difficult decision. And that decision be whether or not expulsion should be recommended in this case. I can't tell you ultimately what the finding of this committee would have been. We would have listened to the arguments today. We would have debated as a committee. But by her tendering her resignation, it prevents not only this committee from having to make that decision, but prevents this matter from being played out on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Do you feel the ethics process is working?
I do. It may not work as quickly as some people would like. It is a very deliberate process. And look, we want to make sure that when the committee itself, when we make recommendations, when we make findings, that we have all the evidence before us. And so we will continue to look for ways in which we can speed up the process. If leadership wishes to change the ethics process and the fact of additional resources, additional jurisdiction, I think that is a decision for the Speaker and the Minority Leader to make in conjunction with one another. This is an equally divided committee. We try to make this committee as nonpartisan as possible. But if there are reforms that need to be made, we will be receptive to that. But again, that is not for this committee to make. We are bound by the rules. We are going to comply with those rules, but if those rules need to be changed, if there needs to be changes made by leadership to the committee, we will be receptive to that.
Chairman, is this a loophole, though, that members can just resign and then no longer be under investigation? Does that really undermine your work?
I don't believe so. I mean, and I don't want to speak for Mark, and but I believe that the core of what we do is to gather evidence and to make decisions, to then make recommendations to the body. And of course, the most serious recommendation that we can make would be once a member leaves this body, then we no longer have jurisdiction. In this case, we've already presented all the findings. The statement of alleged violation is public. The findings of the Ethics Committee and the 25 allegations that we substantiated has been made public. So the only thing left in this case would have been for us to make a sanctions recommendation. All the information that we have gathered is now in the public domain. And so, besides having to save her colleagues from making a potential very difficult situation, we've done our job. We've presented the evidence. It's now in the public. And the people of her district, will have to choose a new representative to represent them in Washington. But I don't believe, that by ending the process once an individual resigns, that short circuits ethics. Again, if that's something that leadership wishes to change and they wish to extend the jurisdiction of the Ethics Committee, and they wish for us to have jurisdiction over any matter that occurred, irregardless of whether they're still members or not, the committee would be receptive to that. But that is a leadership decision that needs to be made by the Speaker and the Minority Leader, and then they need to make sure that once that decision is made, we will abide by whatever process or procedure they put in place.
Is that something you recommend, though, for
I've not had any conversation with my leadership. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to us continuing to have jurisdiction, particularly in light of very serious allegations, that for us to be able to then possibly inform the public more about the conduct for which the member resigned. And so that's not anything that I oppose, but it's not something that I've had the chance to advocate for you.
And finally, she was frustrated that the committee was investigating her while she had these pending criminal charges. She didn't want to say anything that could be used against her. Obviously, in court of law, there's a serious indictment against her. Does that in any way, do you guys think the committee perhaps should have waited? Why move ahead with this while the criminal investigation?
Well, we began before the criminal investigation, and so this matter began well before the criminal investigation. And if the rule is once an individual is indicted, then that stops the ethics process. I don't believe that is the right message that we want to send to members of Congress, that if you've been charged with very serious crimes, and as long as you can delay your trial, that is going to delay the ethics process. I believe we kind of started beginning to set that bar with the Santos matter, where we moved ahead with the Santos investigation during a time in which he was under federal indictment, and that matter actually came to the floor. And so I believe it would be disingenuous for Ms. McCormick to say that this is a change of precedent, because it's not. That change happened last Congress in 2023 with the George Santos matter. But look, people want these matters resolved. They don't want the Ethics Committee to be waiting years. And though it took that long in this case, it was because it was a complex case that required a great deal of investigation. But I would oppose just a blanket continuance of any matter if those individuals are under federal indictment. So I've got to run. I'm going to turn over to my ranking member.
Before you go, I think one thing I want to emphasize is this committee worked in a completely bipartisan way. Ethics are more important than in all these. And I really want to commend the chairman. We've had a wonderful, trustful relationship. So we both take a little umbrage to all the criticism the committee gets. The rules are designed by the House, the rules and leadership. If there's opportunities to make it better, I think we both agree we're open to that. And clearly, at least perspective from the public, there's a lack of trust in this institution. And we've been working very hard to hold people accountable in both parties, that they have a real sacred trust here, and we have to hold them accountable. So somewhere between taking a long time to make sure that we've delivered it in a deliberative fashion and thoughtful, in this case, with the indictment, we really thought worked through it. So it's a challenge. But for me, I think, like anything, the ethics process, given the current tenor, we need to look at it impartially and see if we can do a better job so we prevent incidents like this.
Were you both prepared to vote to expel Cherfilus-McCormick today? Is that the conclusion you were ready to reach?
I was prepared to listen to the testimony.
Were you aware that she was going to resign before today's meeting?
No.
This is the third resignation in a very short period of time. What message do you think this is all sending to the American people? So many resignations in a short period of time.
What I hope it sends is that, we being the Ethics Committee, we being the body as a whole, that we're going to hold members accountable. And that members that conduct bad conduct, whatever that conduct may be, we've seen sexual misconduct, we've seen financial misconduct, that those members are going to be held accountable, and that this body is willing to expel members who violate the rules and who bring distrust upon this institution. And I hope that that's what people see. We want individuals to have trust in their elected officials, and I think as members of Congress, we should be held to a higher standard than the general public.
And I'll just say there are a lot of people testing norms right now, and not just in this institution, not just in politics. And I think this is the way we as a country should respond, working together to make sure people understand that ethics and trust is paramount to just political differences. It goes beyond that.
Any updates on the investigation into Congressman Mills?
It's ongoing. There's an investigative subcommittee that has been in panel, and we are working through that. Again, that is an allegation that that is an investigation with multiple allegations that we're working through. So I can tell you that I know the investigative subcommittee, which again is equally made of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, are working diligently to try to bring the matter to a conclusion. So look, Mark and I both have
I'm
to
gonna
run.
go to
Thank y'all
votes.
so much.
Education.
What you just watched is not really about Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. It is about a system that just demonstrated in real time and on the record exactly how it can be beaten. The House Ethics Committee chairman, in answering a routine press question, laid out the mechanics of congressional escape with more clarity than any critic of Congress ever could. Get charged with serious crimes, hire lawyers, delay your trial, and the ethics clock stops. Or in this case, just resign before the vote, and the jurisdiction evaporates entirely. Here are the facts as they stand. Cherfilus-McCormick represented Florida's 20th congressional district. The House Ethics Committee investigated her for 25 separate violations, financial misconduct, allegations that she stole federal relief funds and used the money to finance her own political campaign. She denied the charges. The committee found clear and convincing evidence on every one of those 25 counts. They were convened this morning, April 22, 2026, prepared to vote on whether to recommend her expulsion from the House of Representatives. She resigned minutes before that vote happened. The moment her resignation landed, the committee's jurisdiction ended. No sanctions recommendation, no floor vote, no formal consequence on the record beyond the findings themselves. The chairman stood in front of cameras afterward and said the system worked. And technically, in the narrowest possible sense, he is right. The evidence is public. The 25 substantiated violations are documented. The people of her district will elect someone new. But here is what the chairman also said, almost in the same breath. If you are indicted on federal charges, the ethics process will wait for your criminal case to resolve. Which means the longer your lawyers can string out a trial, the longer you can remain a sitting member of Congress with your ethics case on pause. He framed this as a feature, pointing to the George Santos precedent where the committee moved forward during a federal indictment. But Santos was the exception, and the chairman just confirmed that the default posture of this committee is to wait. This matters far beyond this one case because there is a pattern here that is now impossible to ignore. This is the 3rd resignation from Congress in a short period of time under the weight of serious misconduct allegations. Each time, the resignation arrives at the precise moment when the formal consequence is about to land. Each time, the system closes the file and moves on. And each time, the question the public is left with is the same one that reporter asked this morning. Is this a loophole? The chairman's answer was careful and long and ultimately said, yes, but we are open to changing it if leadership decides to. Which is another way of saying that the people who benefit most from the current rules are the ones who would have to vote to change them. Watch whether House leadership, Speaker and Minority Leader together, because this committee is equally divided, moves to extend Ethics Committee jurisdiction beyond resignation. Watch whether the Congressman Mills investigation, which the ranking member briefly mentioned at the end of this press conference, reaches a conclusion before the midterms or gets quietly absorbed into the same slow walk that defined this case. The structure of accountability in this institution is only as strong as the people running it are willing to make it. If you think that standard should be higher than what you just watched, you already know what to do. Share this. The people who need to see it probably won't go looking for it themselves.